Am I the arsehole for not giving my nephew his birthday gift? Just bear with me for a moment. My 29 female nephew Josh, 12 male, is quite spoiled. His parents, my brother and sister-in-law, show blatant favoritism towards him over his younger sister Lou, 9 female. As a result, sadly, Josh has grown a little entitled. He's also quite mean to his younger sister because his parents never believe her when she tells him what he's done to her stuff. Now, I'm usually very strict, and when the kids are with me for a weekend, Josh is usually on his best behavior. Josh's birthday was yesterday. Lou had a spelling bee last week and she got first prize. Her parents brushed it off, but I was very happy for her because she spent hours learning each word, and I was very proud. So when I took the kids the day before Josh's birthday so he could pick out a gift for his birthday, I got Lou a stuffed animal as a "you did great." Josh picked this game that he's been wanting. The birthday party was yesterday, and when I went to their house, Lou had been grounded and was not allowed to attend, and the 2 friends she had invited were also sent back home. I thought that it was extreme and asked what she had done. Turns out that Josh and her argued over the TV remote, and Josh went to her room and destroyed her stuffed animal that I gave her and told her that she didn't deserve it. Lou screamed at him, and my brother got angry with her temper tantrum and had her pick up the pieces of the stuffed animal and throw them in the trash, all while she cried. She was then grounded. By the way, Josh's best friend was the one who spilled the beans to me and also told me that Josh goaded his parents into the punishment. I was furious and refused to give Josh his birthday present, telling him he didn't deserve it for being mean to his sister. I also told off my sister-in-law and brother that they are growing insanely cruel towards their young daughter. Now my family is pissed that I refused to give Josh his birthday gift. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. 1. I refused to give my nephew his birthday present. 2. His parents think I have no business interfering in their family. I don't think you're the arsehole for this one. I do think it was good of you to refuse to give him his birthday present. And while you don't have business interfering with most other aspects of their family, this definitely is something that I feel you do have business interfering with. You're close to them. It's okay to point out their bad parenting and obvious favoritism. The fact that they tried to cover up and just not talk about what happened at all makes it even more disgusting to me. Shame on them for piling on and bullying their younger daughter. Not the arsehole for what you've done, OP. And now in the comments, not the arsehole. Make sure you let her know that she has family that does love her and cares about her because she's likely to need that support as she grows. Be ready to put at a distance and ready to support her when you can. Rarely I have been so infuriated reading a story. That is cruel. And Josh can be on good behavior. Is it some cultural thing that girls are worthless and a nuisance? It is an international cultural thing spanning generations, cultures, and ethnicities. This happens every day in places like the US, UAE, Italy, France, the Netherlands, Australia, Canada, or just to name a country. So many feel like AFABs are just homemakers and incubators. Not the arsehole. His parents are just the worst. They are, and they are making a monster. Well done speaking up. Awful parents. Offer to adopt her if you can, as they are negligent. I hope that you're around when she's a teenager and needs somewhere to live when they find an excuse to kick her out. And OP replies, I come from a family where sons are preferred over daughters. When my sister-in-law found out she was expecting a girl, she wanted to get rid of her, but she was too far along. I did offer to adopt her multiple times, but they have an image to maintain, and they refused to let me. My parents were the same with me. I guess just skate the line of supporting niece and not angering the family enough to get removed from niece's life until she's old enough to make a decision about where to live. I don't know. That's awful, OP. I'm sorry that your family is like that. And now back up to the post, we have an edit. I have picked up my niece from my brother's house this morning. I called him and told him that if she's being so rude to her brother, then maybe she should stay with me for a couple of days to calm down. I had no other choice but to say this, had to get her out of there. I got her a massive teddy bear which she's keeping in my house, and I took her out to get McDonald's so she's smiling, but I'm looking for a more permanent solution. Edit 2. Guys, I'll be updating on my own page, but thank you for the incredible advice. I have read all of the comments, but there's a lot going on, so I don't have the strength of mind to reply. But I'll post an update in a couple of days. Fingers crossed it's a positive one. And now, onto the update. It has been a hell of a week. First of all, I want to say thank you for all of the kind comments and messages. I've read all of them. I only managed to respond to some because I was pretty overwhelmed over the whole thing. There was a lot going on as well. As you can tell from my other posts, I'm in the middle of switching careers, so I simply don't have the funds to support my niece. And by that, I mean no one is going to give me my niece to foster because my income is low. I'm a freelance romance writer, and that doesn't really generate a lot of income. I say this because I did seek out advice from social services in my country, and they just shook their head at me. But I'll get to that later. On to the actual update. I did end up taking my niece with me for a few days, and I sat her down and talked to her once she was calm. There were a lot of things that were happening in that house that I was not aware of. My nephew bullies her, and my brother thinks it's funny when she cries. A few months ago, my niece had an accident and fractured her left arm. I was told that she slipped down the stairs. She is clumsy, so I thought that was that. It turned out her brother pushed her down the stairs as a prank, and my brother laughed while she was screaming in pain. I verified the story from a neighbor who told me that she ended up taking her to the hospital. Her father was apparently shouting at her to stop making a racket when she wouldn't stop screaming in pain. I lost it at that. I asked her if her mum knew, and she said yes. Now, my childhood was pretty dark, but not like this. I called my parents and asked her about this incident and a couple of others, and at first they hee-hawed. We don't know, blah blah blah, and then my mum admitted that she knew and that it was just kids being kids. I just saw red at that point. This whole week I've been gathering any bit of evidence that I can find. Finally, I invited over my brother and his wife. I told them that if they didn't get their crap together, I was posting everything on social media. I was going to email it to their companies, friends, and whatnot. Thank you to whomever suggested this. And at first, my brother was furious, and when he tried to attack me, I pointed towards the camera that I have in my living room. I was so angry that I felt like I was numb. I knew that this would destroy my relationship with my entire family, but they left a little girl screaming on the bottom of the stairs, and my brother laughed. I can't get that image out of my head. I told them I could either call the social services in our country and get Lou taken from them, or they could give her to me. The problem with this threat is that if I went to the social services route, I would lose Lou as well. I told them that if they don't want a daughter, they can give her to me. They can pretend she never existed. I was just speaking very quickly at that point. I don't even remember what I said. I would take over her expenses, etc., except for her health insurance and school fees. I told them that they would never have to look at her again. I just kept talking. My sister-in-law started crying how I was taking her child from her. I admittedly got angry over that and reminded her how she wanted to abort Lou when she was pregnant. I was legit angry crying at that moment. I wanted to hit them. My brother was just silent. He was actually considering it. I told them it was better than having their dirty laundry aired in public because if it did, both kids would be removed from their house. It was blackmail, but I had no other options. They said they would think about it, but Lou is with me for now. My sister-in-law was pretty nasty about it too. In her words, keep the little slip on a sun shirt, slop on some sunscreen and slap on a hat, and keep out of the sun, Aussie wisdom. All in my language, of course. I don't know how she can refer to her daughter like this, but honestly, I don't give a crap. Those that aren't looking at the screen, she called her daughter the S word. Don't do that, no no no. My friend is a lawyer, and he has told me to get a voice message from them that Lou is going to stay with me. My sister-in-law said this over the voice note. Lou hasn't mentioned going home. She doesn't want to talk about her parents. Yesterday, she and I went out and bought this lavender color paint, and we painted my entire guest room for her. I have decided to pick up more projects so that I can start saving for her. I did have some money set aside for a potential college fund for her, but I'll be picking up more work to save more and give her a comfortable life. I did get calls from my parents shouting at me. I closed the phone on them. The only person who is supportive is my cousin. He said that if social services do get involved, he can take Lou in and I can move closer to them or something. I don't know. Lou is just quiet. She's happy sometimes, and sometimes she's just quiet. I fear she suffered more abuse in that house than she's letting on. My lawyer friend recommended a child therapist, so I've booked a session for Monday. It's been 3 days, and no call from my brother and sister-in-law. My parents call every now and then to yell at me, but they yell at me either way, so it's like whatever. I feel like this might work because both brother and sister-in-law saw the post I had written out as a draft with pictures and evidence. It was extreme enough that they would suffer damage at their jobs. And news channels in my country eat this crap up, especially if it happens in an educated household. I don't know. I know blackmail is wrong, but I just don't know what to do. And now in the comments, you did the right thing. You saved your niece. I would highly recommend a child therapist, and if there is some way that you could get paperwork from your brother and sister-in-law that is officially giving you custody. Additionally, I am so concerned about sister-in-law referring to her daughter as a little tramp. I have a pit in my stomach thinking about why a woman would say that to a little girl, especially when her brother is 12 years old, and the father laughs at her in pain. She may also need a physical form from a super kind and calm pediatrician, but I would hold off, if she's healthy, until she feels more comfortable and grounded. You have literally changed the trajectory of her life. Thank you. And OP replies, "This is something that worries me as well. I want to ask Lou, but I don't want to phrase it in a way that might trigger something, so I'm going to discuss this with the therapist. If I was OP, I would keep any and every voicemail and text messages from other family members who knew about what was going on with niece in case they try anything. Because due to the fact that OP is helping niece, OP should not put it past anyone right now to pull something to get in the way of helping niece. And the nasty name-calling from her own parents towards Lou. Everything and anything should be kept. I would even insist on texts and emails so everything is recorded. OP should also ask her lawyer friend about recording without knowledge. In her country, it might be legal for such purposes, i.e. family court. It's only a matter of time until one day, Josh starts acting this way towards strangers if he hasn't already done so to other children. I would not be surprised if that kid lands himself in prison because of his actions. Him and his parents won't be laughing then. That will probably be sooner rather than later, now that he's lost his punching bag. Also, people like this need a scapegoat more than a golden child, so there's probably some changes coming to the relationship between the parents and the son, especially if they blame him for what's going on. My girlfriend left me for putting the Christmas tree up. So I was single-handedly raised by my grandfather. He's like a father to me. He did his best to give me a normal childhood in an effort to try to make up for my father not being there. My grandfather loves Christmas, and he always made sure that we had the best day ever. We weren't well off, and most of his gifts were handmade. This made it even more special because he was very good at creating things from wood, and they were fascinating. He taught me everything I know, and I am so grateful for that. We would bake cookies and make a delicious dinner from scratch, and sit by the fire doing puzzles. We still live together, and I'm the one taking care of him now. My girlfriend stays with us, and it's been a year of that now. My grandfather has been unwell for a while, and he's only getting worse. The doctor does not think that he'll make it until the end of the year. I am very devastated, and I feel like my whole world is falling apart, but I'm trying not to show it. On a particularly bad day for him this year, my grandfather asked me, "Is it Christmas yet?" And when I said no, he continued to tell me how he can't wait for it and how he'll make me a bookshelf for all of my books. He hasn't been able to make anything in years because of his arthritis. This conversation broke my heart, and on a whim, I decided that we'll have a Christmas in July. This did not go down well with my girlfriend. She kept saying that it was a waste of time and that it's weird that I want to act like it's Christmas when it's not. When I insisted and put up the tree and decorations inside the house, she called me crazy and threatened to leave. She said my grandfather is not a child, and even kids can wait until Christmas. I told her that this Monday, when I finally get a day off, it is Christmas whether she likes it or not. She could either choose to be a part of it, or she could do what she thinks is best for her, but I would love her support. Well, when I came back from work, she was gone, and so were her clothes. As for my grandfather and I, we have already started watching Christmas movies when I come back from work, if he isn't in bed yet. I can't even begin to explain just how much he loves it. I will get us silly matching pajamas and try to get some of his favorite things, wrap them up, and put them under the tree. I will also make us a nice Christmas lunch, and hopefully light up the fireplace if it's not too hot, which is so unlikely. Maybe I'm going crazy, but I just want to do this for us, even if it seems stupid. Merry Christmas. And now in the comments, I think you will cherish this memory forever. Even if it's not truly Christmas, you're making a loved one happy when he isn't doing well. You said he might not make it to the end of the year, and if he doesn't, then this is his last Christmas. If he does, you get to have even more fun with him. Enjoy all of the time you have left with him. OP, you're a treasure. Please always and forever do exactly what you are doing. Caregiving in self-home hospice is insane. Navigating how to give our people the best in their last moments is what got us by and made the anguish less intense. No one else's bullcrap or opinions matter in those moments. My mum was an amazing cook. She taught me everything, and we always had the best time together in the kitchen, baking, chopping, and getting creative. It's how we connected. Last September, we found out of nowhere, that she had metastatic brain cancer with a few months to live. It actually turned out to be just over 3 weeks. She was still capable of using her hands that first week. Her brain was obviously off, lol. She kept insisting on making this chicken stock and pasta sauce. She'd have this chipper, toddler-like voice, rambling incoherently and insistently about chopping tomatoes and getting roasts in the oven. She insisted. Well, chop tomatoes we did. I was nervous as hell. Who gives a toddler, even if they're an adult one, a knife? Me. And it is my favorite last memory with her. In her last photo, my mum sits at the kitchen table all shrunken to 75 pounds, swimming in her PJs, yet sitting tall and glorious next to this mountain of tomatoes that she wouldn't let me help her with. I can do it! And she did, just like she always did, until she couldn't anymore. The knife looked as big as she was, but the smile and contentment on her face in that photo are the largest of all. I will cherish that piece of indulgence we shared in her last days. You will not regret anything. Merry Christmas to you and Grandpa. Someone cutting onions around here? Jesus. And now, on to the update. When I wrote my original post, I was going through a lot of emotions. I felt a bit insane for insisting on having a Christmas in the middle of the year just to make my grandfather happy. I was glad when a lot of people validated my feelings on the post. The encouragement uplifted my spirit. Sadly, my grandfather died from sudden cardiac arrest a few days ago. I know that he did not have long to live, but I didn't think that it would be so soon. And in a matter that my heart was not prepared for. I've been trying to keep myself busy with everything, but last night in bed I cracked, and I cried for the first time in a long time. The only thing that makes me feel a bit better is remembering how happy he was on Christmas morning. I will never forget the look on his face and his overall demeanor. He had so much life in him, and to my surprise, he smiled mischievously, took off his beard band and gifted it to me as a Christmas present. I do not remember ever seeing him take it off before in my whole entire life. It was a sobering moment, but it was also a memory that I will forever hold close to my heart. It meant the absolute world to me. We had such a great day. I didn't want it to end. Now it's like my whole entire world came crashing down. I feel so alone. I do, however, appreciate that I was lucky enough to have had him in my life. And now in the comments, I'm so very sorry for your loss. Deeply proud of you for putting him first. I too love Christmas, and I would ask this of my kids. And OP replies, thank you. It was really worth it. I'm happy that you were able to make your grandfather's last few days happy and easy. Your ex lost out on someone that sounds overly loving and caring, that cherishes their loved ones. Please don't be afraid to reach out to people when you need support, or to join a local support group. I only say this because it's been 8 years since I lost my grandpa, and it's still difficult to quell the urge to drive up to his place for a visit. I'm very sorry for your loss. You did the right thing to make him happy, and you're a good person. Don't be afraid to cry. You never really get over some griefs. You just get used to them. So be gentle with yourself too, as you would have been for your grandfather. And OP says, "Thank you. I'll try to be more patient with myself. It's too early, and I know it'll get better one day." I'm so happy that you decided to do this for him and yourself. What happened with the ex-girlfriend in the days following her packing up and leaving? And OP replies, "Thank you. We spoke on text and she said that she needed space. It was probably for the best. I told her about my grandfather, but she hasn't replied yet." She actually sounds very selfish. Even if she didn't like you nurturing your grandfather and making his last days happy, she should, at the very, very least, say sorry that you lost him. Honestly, don't continue on with her just because you're a caring person who puts others first. I believe you can do so much better. By the way, here in Australia, Christmas in July is an extremely popular thing. As our Christmas is usually hot, we very regularly have parties and restaurants that participate and have made it a thing so we can experience the cold Christmas too. This is so sad but beautiful at the same time. It's the little things in life that matter. The fact that she couldn't find the space in her heart for a little bit of magic, wonder and joy for a dying man does not speak well of her. Can you imagine if she couldn't even go along with a little thing like this that required literally nothing of her? How she'd behave when life actually got tough and things went sideways. I'm annoyed that it doesn't sound definitive that they're broken up completely. Why would you even want to keep someone in your life like that? Probably out of loneliness. He just lost someone, and might be in denial about it truly being over with his girlfriend, because that means that he lost 2 people. That's true. Some people feel like even just scraps are better than nothing. Our next post is titled, "Am I the arsehole if I don't take just one of my children on holiday with me?" Hear me out first, please. I have a young daughter who is 10 who had a brain trauma condition from being hurt in the womb. She is hard work. She screams, demands her own way, and steals like nothing you've ever seen before. Since the schools broke up for the summer, she's been off the charts with her behavior. I understand for the most part she can't help it, but some she most definitely can. She is very clever, and her lies to cover her butt are prize-worthy. Now back to the Am I the Arsehole? We have 3 days away booked in a pod that my 4 other children are so excited for. There is going to be fire building, games, snacks galore, but I just know that my daughter will ruin it. She will break the toys, eat all the good snacks, won't let them sleep, and steal their electronics. This morning, I got up and found she had been up in the night and had taken all the pre-bought sweets and marshmallows. In frustration, I told her if this is how she's going to be, then she won't be able to come away with us, as it's not fair on everyone else. She didn't care. Her brain doesn't work like that. She just got mad that I caught her. On reflection, I thought, of course I would never exclude her like that. But could I? The thought of a trip with just the other 4 for 2 nights, giving them all the attention and being able to really spoil them sounds like heaven. So would I be the arsehole? Edit to add, she would be with a family member being spoiled and having fun, not hidden away home alone. Yes, she has been having therapy. It makes no difference, but she gets it term time at school. I'm in the UK, not the USA. And now in the comments, not the arsehole. I'm thinking of the other kids. It's only 2 days and would mean so much to them to have time without the drama. It sounds like she gets a lot of attention normally. Maybe it's the other kids' turn. In my country, we have something called respite care, where families with children with severe disabilities, including behavioral difficulties, can have short breaks where this child goes to a regular foster carer. This is an absolute godsend for parents and families who love and care for children with complex needs day in, day out. It does not make you a bad parent, brother, sister, to want to take a weekend out of this so long as safe, loving carers are available for the time that you're away. Not the asshole, but I would not present this to your child as a punishment. Share it as an exciting thing they're going to be doing with the other people they're staying with, and you'll need to set expectations on how your other kids communicate this too. The respite care thing sounds amazing. I wish that was a thing everywhere in the world. It's great, but it can be like pulling teeth to get a reasonable number of hours in Canada. Like here, have 3 hours twice a week to get groceries so you don't starve to death. Now isn't your mental health so much better? A seldom no assholes here from me. She has brain issues and the other kids deserve their vacation too. Info. What is her therapy? By that, I mean medication or other. OP replies, no medication. She has had play therapy twice, Lego therapy, and outdoor therapy so far. Each are only a school term at a time. So, firstly, I'm gonna go against the grain and say, not the asshole. I'm autistic and had pretty bad behavior issues as a kid. I know that none of my family would ever say it to my face, but I know that I ruined more than a few outings and vacations. Having said that, I would really push for deeper and more serious evaluation and treatment. Even consider medication. There is absolutely nothing wrong with medication. Sometimes it is absolutely necessary. She's only going to get older, bigger, and therefore capable of more damage. Trust me when I say it is traumatizing for everyone watching a child be taken in handcuffs for their own and everyone else's safety after going nuclear, and my parents having no choice but to call the cops. And OP replies, we are fighting as hard as we can for her, have been since she was 6 months old. I would consider medication, however, the pathway she's on currently doesn't support it. I've tried a few herbal things to help her sleep more than 3 hours, but I don't have enough knowledge to try too many things. What on earth does that mean? Get this kid some meds that help her self-regulate. You are her parent who loves her, and even you, very justifiably, don't want her around, at least for this vacation. How do other people feel about her? What impact is this having on your other children? I guarantee it's not good. It is not good for her to grow up socially isolated and despised because her brain doesn't let her regulate her own behavior. There are medical solutions to this. Don't deny them to her. Give her a fighting chance. Source, I'm a specialist in behavior management for special needs kids for 16 years. And OP replies, I do not despise her. No one does. She is a very loved member of the family. Her behavior is just difficult. You can't just get meds. That's not how it works here. Oh Christ, you're in the UK. That explains a lot about the therapy only being term time. My mum fought like hell for me when the NHS was funded a lot better, and it was hard. My issues were also very different and easier treated than your daughter. Good luck, but it sounds like you're killing this. Reading your post and comments, you seem to have that rare mix of caring for your daughter's complex needs while appreciating it makes life hard for your other kids. Look into young carers in the area. It's run by Red Cross. They take your other kids on special trips, etc. to give them some time off. And now, on to the update. Some people asked for an update on the post. Basically, I have a child with a brain injury who is very hard work, and out of frustration, I said that if they didn't behave, they couldn't come. I came here to ask people's opinion on if it's ever okay to leave one child at home. Firstly, to all who said not the asshole, I wish that I had listened to you. Thank you for all of your kind words. Now onto the update. We decided to take her. Some of the asshole comments made me feel like a terrible parent for even considering it. Night 1, she escaped the tent, and we found her trying to get into another person's stuff next door. Luckily, they were wonderful neighbors. Day 2, she screamed in the swimming pool over a pair of goggles so badly that hubby took her out. Later on, she runs off from the park. Thankfully, we saw her. Night 2, she refuses to settle in bed, so hubby sleeps outside the tent and catches her trying to escape again at 3 a.m. Day 3, she is tired and grumpy, shouting at everyone and refusing to eat food. So I've brought her home. Hubby and the other kids have stayed and will have a wonderful last afternoon and night. I wish I was with them, but she's too wound up now to give her to nanny, as was the original option. So, thank you guys. You were mostly right, and I wish that I had listened. And now in the comments, it can be very traumatic for the other kids involved to grow up with a sibling like this. It sounds like a difficult situation, but ultimately the kids have very different needs and abilities to cope with things, and that should be considered. I had a lot of behavioral issues as a kid, and it makes me sad to think about what my sister's childhood was like dealing with me. Not really my fault, but still. I used to work in a facility with men with different mental disabilities. Most had been there for over 20 years. I honestly, at first, kind of judged the parents for not wanting to take care of their kids. Sure, I had read a bit about his behavioral history and how he would act at the beginning, but I didn't really get it until quarantine started and some of his old behaviors resurfaced. Everything suddenly made sense, and I no longer thought his sister was too harsh for not allowing him to hold her baby. Having grown up with a disabled sibling, I'd like to implore OP to remember the needs of her other kids. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but siblings to special needs children often grow up traumatized in their own way, and this trauma is often glossed over and placed low in the rank of priorities. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my sister-in-law to watch her mouth?" So my husband hosted a dinner party last night for his family. They tend to have a big one 2 or 3 times during the summer, and it was my husband's turn. It was also my 17-year-old son Luke and I's first time meeting his extended family. We both come from pretty well-off families, but his is pretty snobby from what my husband told me. I was a bit nervous, but Luke was a mess. My husband and his stepsisters tried comforting him, but by the time everyone arrived, he would not leave my side. It was okay-ish. They were definitely snobby, but most of them were okay. Maybe slightly out of touch, but harmless. The real issue was dinner. Everyone was sitting at the table, and my husband told us earlier that his family say grace before eating, so we were waiting for everyone to get situated. I then noticed Luke fidgeting, and he was starting to sweat as well. I grabbed his hand to calm him down, and he was shaking. I was extremely confused and concerned, and the next thing I knew, he had taken a large bite of the mashed potato on his plate. Nobody cared or noticed except my sister-in-law, who was sitting right in front of him. She gasped very dramatically and said, "I can't believe he ate before grace! How disrespectful!" She then turned to my husband and said, "Your wife is lovely, but I'm getting bad vibes from the boy." I was shocked and immediately told her to watch her mouth. Her husband, sister-in-laws, not mine, then told me to watch my son. By that point, my husband told them to shut the hell up or leave, so they shut up. But it was pretty awkward, and my sister-in-law was glaring at me the whole time. Before leaving, she told me that I ruined dinner, and that she can see where my son gets his behavior from. She implied I was the asshole for telling her to watch her mouth, and embarrassing her, and being rude. My husband told me to ignore her, but his other sister and his mother as well are asking me to apologize and start disciplining my son. So, am I the asshole? It's pretty low stakes, as I'm more concerned about my son's behavior. He's been acting extremely out of character, but I want some perspective. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. Because I guess I did embarrass her and make things awkward when I could have told her to simply stop in a calmer manner. She's insisting that she didn't humiliate my son loudly, and no one heard her except her husband, which I doubt. But I yelled, and everyone heard. Also, I guess that maybe it was disrespectful out of my son to eat before grace. We don't really do that, so I could be wrong. And now in the comments, not the asshole. Discipline your son for taking a bite of food before a grace that his household normally doesn't even say? Ridiculous. And he's 17, very nearly an adult. What are you even going to do to discipline him? Yeah, this. If I were OP, and these people are Christian, I would say, was it an example of a good Christian to berate a nervous young man who just wanted to make a good impression? Do you think my son should apologize for being so concerned about impressing you that he made a small mistake? Because I thought that good Christians were more understanding than that. I would flip it around, seem very innocent and confused, and use those keywords that usually get these types of people to suddenly back down. Your poor son. I'd also suggest maybe letting him get to know one or two of the nicer ones before a big thing like this next time. He obviously struggles with anxiety, I do too, and I think that would help him a lot to have some allies in the extended family. Not the arsehole, but also, info? I have done this same thing. A guest in your own home telling your son, in his own home, that he's disrespectful in front of everybody isn't right at all. I'd understand if he'd said or did something rude or outrageous, but then it would be your job to say something discreetly with him. But for taking a bite of food before she saw it to be acceptable? Just no. Out of curiosity, why was your son so nervous that he wouldn't leave your side and sweating and shaking? And also, is saying grace a normal part of your dinner times? Because if you don't do this often, he clearly didn't understand. Either way, not the asshole, you didn't allow a virtual stranger to embarrass your boy, the same way that I wouldn't. And OP replies, I'm glad to see that I didn't overreact. And the thing is, I'm not sure myself. He's usually very carefree, but something triggers him out of nowhere, and he turns into a different and extremely anxious person. We're taking him to a therapist soon though, so we are definitely getting to the bottom of it. And yeah, no, we never do grace. Never something my family did. And now, on to the update. So I didn't expect to get so much attention from my original post, as I posted it at like 4 AM, and it was really low stakes and something that I posted out of pure curiosity. I was glad to see that I was not the asshole. To be honest, the only reason I was doubting myself is because my mother-in-law is probably the wisest person I know, and was insistent that I was in the wrong. So, on to the update. As a lot of you are aware, my focus was my son, and I told my husband as much, which he respected. He said he would deal with his sister, and he did. But my father-in-law had a pretty terrifying health scare, and we were forced to meet. I didn't want to cause a scene considering the circumstances, but my sister-in-law apologized for saying the things she said, but she also told me that she still believes that my son was disrespectful. She then told me that she had noticed him sneakily eating stuff off the dinner table all night, so before the dinner, and she thought that that was something that I should be aware of. I told her that she needed to apologize to my son, and I don't care what she finds disrespectful. She just walked off, so I don't know. There wasn't much improvement there. She's also back in the States now, and we won't be seeing her for a while. As for my son, the thing she told me about my son sneakily eating stuff concerned me for a couple of reasons, and basically, after pairing that with the extreme anxiety and similar behaviors with food, we managed to book an earlier appointment with not a therapist like originally planned, but our doctor. We were then referred to a mental health professional, and after some time, he was diagnosed with OCD. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it's been pretty confusing, and I'm just thankful that we were able to see a healthcare professional so quickly. We now have a therapy appointment specifically regarding his OCD in the next week, and we're taking this all one step at a time. Also, despite my mother-in-law's previous beliefs about the incident, she has been extremely supportive and told me that she'd been thinking it over and that she doesn't think that I was in the wrong, as I was just defending my child, who she believes did nothing wrong either. She's apologized, and now we are cool again. Anyways, thanks for all the comments, and I really appreciated everyone's concerns regarding my son. He's going to be okay, and so is our relationship with my husband's family. And now in the comments, any idea why sister-in-law's behavior at the dinner was so hostile? In the 44 years since I turned 18, no family event has included words as hostile as your sister-in-law's comments to you and your son. I'm sorry that you experienced this. And OP replies, husband just told me that she was just being nitpicky and wanted to find something to be upset about. She is also friends with his ex-wife, so there is that, but I don't think that's why, as his ex-wife and him ended things nicely, and she's been kind to me every time we've met. Wait, you got a mental health referral and diagnosis in less than 30 days? How? Where? My mum works in mental health in Alberta, and they have a 6-month wait. I'm in British Columbia, and it's years here. And OP replies, that's what I'm saying. Usually it takes months to get a simple referral. I've had problems regarding my period, and it took me around a year or so to finally meet with a gynecologist. We're in Ontario. I will say though, my husband is a doctor and has some connections, and my son was deteriorating extremely fast. The OCD diagnosis is also very early, so we're still waiting for further developments. All in all, the Canadian healthcare system is just extremely screwed. Yay to see a husband stand up to his family. I think that it was also miraculous the mother-in-law thought it over and apologized instead of doubling down for being wrong. My thoughts also there is a realm where mother-in-laws apologize on Reddit? Impressive. When the sister-in-law said that the son was sneakily eating food, I definitely thought that he just had the munchies and was paranoid because he was secretly stoned. But I guess that was just me projecting what I know. As the parent of a son who was a teenager not too long ago, I didn't think anything was wrong. Teenage boys burn calories at an astonishing rate. I'm glad OP picked up on it and made the connection with his anxiety. Weirdly, sister-in-law probably did them a big favor by noticing it. My girlfriend is being forced to marry someone that she doesn't want to. How do I help her? So I, 26 male, was dating this girl, M, 25 female. We had been dating for over a year, but she came from a very, very strict Indian family. She said she was lucky that they allowed her to work, and they would be extremely against her dating someone, that they wanted her to get married to a guy of their choice. We met at college, ended up at the same company. We had sex several times, which she said was a big no-no, so she wanted to keep it a secret, which I did. 8 months ago, out of the blue, I received a message from her. It said we were done, and she didn't want me to contact her again, and we hadn't had a fight. In fact, we had a romantic dinner just the night before, and yet I got this message. I called her several times, sent her texts and everything. I even planned to go to her house to talk to her, but decided against it due to her family. I even tried calling some friends of hers, but they just said that she had ghosted them too. I was heartbroken, and after 2 months, I decided to get back out there, but just couldn't find someone with that same spark. I had basically given up on dating, and I started focusing on my career, and I recently even landed a very high-paying job. I was happy, yet lonely. 3 days ago, I got a message from one of her friends. She said M was at her place and had been there for nearly a week, and she was asking to meet me. I was hesitant and asked her if she was playing a cruel joke on me after the way that we broke up, to which the friend broke down crying to my surprise, and she said that she couldn't explain over the phone. I went there, and sure enough, M was sitting there. She looked thinner and a bit paler and very, very sad. She saw me, started crying, and hugged me, and then we sat down to talk. She said that her family had seen us together, and when she went home that night, she was yelled at. She lives in a big joint family, so her parents, grandmum, 3 uncles and aunts, and about 13 cousins live under the same roof. She said they took away her phone, prevented her from going to work or contacting anyone. They said they had pressured her into telling them how far our relationship had gone, and when it was revealed that she wasn't a virgin, her family went berserk. They then shifted her to their rural village and arranged her marriage with a family friend who was 60 to 65 years old, and when she tried to refuse, they threatened to kill her. She said she played along for a month, and that a week or so ago, the marriage date was decided to be in September. She said she told her family she wanted to spend time with her to-be husband and managed to slip away, after which she took a train to get back here. I had shifted to a bigger house and wasn't on any social media, so she didn't know where I was and went to her friend. She stayed there for a few days, resting and crying, worried her family would find her before asking to meet me. I have no idea what to do here and how to proceed. I love her, and I'm willing to be there for her, but I have absolutely no idea how. What legal steps can we take? And now in the comments, she is legally an adult, and technically they can't do anything to get her back. I would say make sure that your home has security cameras around in case they come to your home. See if she can file for a restraining order as well. I'm not sure about the aid available where you are or the legal rights the state gives, but here in the US, there is a bunch of organizations to help with battered and abused women. I'm certain if you look in India, you'll find groups who can help you protect your girlfriend. These groups know the local laws and how willing the police are in protecting women who are in danger. Reddit is a big place. Search here for a group or subreddit with the information you two need, and do an online search as well. You may also want to take some extra steps in securing yourself. Stay dark on social media, remove some of the details you just posted here, and don't be out in public in this community without disguising yourselves. The family might be capable of doing anything. And OP replies, "Thank you so much. We're actually discussing a court marriage between the two of us if necessary, and I'll definitely look into some organizations." And now, onto the update. So, a while ago, I had made a post here asking for help because my girlfriend was being forced to marry someone that she didn't want to. This is the update to that. We got married. We married in Arya Samaj Mandir, which is just a way of saying we got married the fastest way possible legally. We got the marriage certificate and made the legal adjustments, changing details on passport, Aadhaar card, etc. She's seeing a therapist now and is mentally better. Isn't that scared now? Her family did find out and did try to lodge a case that I was holding her against her will or that she had been brainwashed by me. But an affidavit, thanks to a user's fantastic advice, disproved all of that. Her brother did send me some threats, and her dad actually tried to enter my house, but in the end, they had no choice but to accept it and left to go to their hometown. My wife and I blocked them on everything, and we haven't had any contact from them for a while now, so we don't think there'll be a problem anymore. Now that all the legal craziness and family drama has been dealt with, we're going to start adjusting as husband and wife. We're planning a proper wedding celebration with all our friends, who are basically our family. We will also go on a honeymoon soon. I'm glad things worked out as well as they could for us, and I'm going to look forward to spending the rest of my life with a fantastic woman. And now in the comments, you need to move. They know your address and they have connections with local law enforcement. Congratulations on the wedding, and stay vigilant. OP replies, "Moving isn't an option right now, but my place has security cameras, and I had previously hired a security company whose guards are still there." Can someone explain the affidavit part? OP says, "It's a legal document signed by my wife that says that she married me on her own will, and I didn't force her to marry me in any way. We made this document just before our marriage on someone's advice in case her family tried something. They tried to declare that I had kidnapped and brainwashed her and that they were here to take her back. But when we produced a document which said that she had married me of her own free will and had not been coerced in any way, the case was thrown out. Getting married was probably the only way to truly protect her, short of moving halfway across the world. May they have a happy marriage. It might not even protect her. I've read stories of women marrying a man their family did not approve of. The family claim after some time that they have come around and then end up killing her. They have to stay away from her family forever. Yep, they've already threatened to kill her and they have connections in local law enforcement. They need to get out of that area or country ASAP because that family isn't done. Agreed. Here in Australia, there's a case at the moment. 2 sisters from Saudi Arabia here since 2017, seeking asylum based on sexual orientation and religious grounds, found dead in their apartment. They had been dead for a while when found, so no cause of death as of yet. They had reported they thought that they were being followed by a private investigator at one point, and had appeared quite afraid in interactions with people. It's a mystery at the moment, but honor killing did cross my mind. There was a man here in Texas that was just convicted of murdering his 2 daughters on a New Year's Day back in 2008 because he didn't like the way they were acting and felt they were too westernized. His family hid him for the entire time. Honor killings happen everywhere. OP here, I'm seeing all the comments telling her to move and we are not safe. I agree, but moving will take some time and we're here for the time being. I have put precautions in place though. My house has cameras, alarms, and motion sensors, and I've hired watchmen and guards to patrol the place 24/7 in shifts, so we're constantly protected. As for their connections in the police, they have connections. I have money, so I'm not too worried about that either. Thank you to everyone concerned for our well-being and for the well wishes in moving forward. Our next post is titled, "I was an accident, and after years of negligence, I told my family I wish they had aborted me or given me up for adoption." I was basically an accident. When I was born, my siblings were 16 male, 18 male, 18 female, 20 female, 23 female, and my parents were both 46. I was never abused in my childhood, but I was neglected, and my entire family resented me. My parents didn't really think that they would get pregnant again, but here we are. I was never really looked after for by anyone, and basically had to raise myself. No one ever really spent any time with me or played with me or anything when I was a kid. They didn't ever buy anything significant for me, just handed my siblings clothes and things. I realized this as I got older, so I focused on myself. My thought process at the time was that there was something wrong with me because my siblings were loved by them. So if I improved myself and did things for them, maybe then they would accept me and love me. So I always got the best grades in school. My father was a football enthusiast and played in high school, but I was a basketball lover. But I still dropped it and took up football just to make him proud. I made sure that I did all of my chores readily, always kept my room clean, but nothing I did was ever enough for them. Like for example, if I was first in class, my parents would ask me why didn't I get a higher score. They ignored the percentile but focused on the percentage, and things like that. My siblings or parents never even bothered to show up for a single game. I was never appreciated for what I was, they only detested me for what I wasn't. My siblings also did not allow me to hang out with them at any time at all. We celebrated my father's birthday yesterday. I am 16 today. My siblings do not live with us anymore, and my mother had to leave early and would not return until later in the evening. So it was just me and him for the day. So I decided to serve him breakfast in bed just as he woke up. I cooked. And I bought him a tie for a present. I know it's not the best present, but I was on a budget. Nothing too extravagant, because I want to save as much money as possible for college. But it was definitely a smart one. I also cooked lunch for us and took care of all the chores. The most he could come up with was a pathetic thank you, and it was clear that he wanted me to leave him alone, so I did just that. We all went out, siblings included, to a dinner, and the way these would go is that they would all have a good time, and I would just sit in the corner. This is the case with almost all family dinners that we have ever attended. We went back home, and I don't know why. I really don't know what triggered it, but for some reason, I just started crying all of a sudden. Maybe it was them being so happy together, I don't know. And when they asked me what happened, I just blew up at them and told them how I felt about my entire childhood, how they never showed me any kind of love and affection, among other things. I don't know exactly what I said, but I do remember I ended it by saying that I wish that they had aborted me if they hate me so much, or could have given me up for adoption so they could all live their lives without me. My eldest sister started to say something, but I just ran up to my room and closed the door and went to sleep listening to some Hans Zimmer because they just kept knocking at the door. Early this morning, I went out my window and went to a scheduled spot that I often go to, usually to play some guitar or pace around listening to music or just enjoying the sound of nature. I'm sitting down here right now writing this on my phone at 4:30 a.m. and I don't know what to do at all. I'm sorry if I just went out on a rant, but this is the first time that I'm able to tell my childhood to anyone. Now, how exactly do I tackle this problem? I've pretty much given up on my family now, and have spent the entirety of my time trying to please them. Do I still try to form any kind of bond with them? Do I completely drop them off? What exactly is the best thing to do here? And now in the comments, wow, this actually got me emotional. I can't imagine your pain. You were doing great in school and will soon be going to college. Do you think you can hold it together until then? Once you move out to college, you are your own man. Since you told them how you feel, they'll try to make you feel better. If it feels genuine to you, go with it. If not, keep strong. Hold to yourself and keep going. Your life is worth living. You have great potential and you will excel. Try to focus on all that you want to accomplish in life now that you are done trying to please your family. Life gets so much better in college. You may even find that you make friends that become like family. Try to live on campus your first year. Being away will give you and your family time to process, and it may even heal your relationship with them. You will no longer rely on them and will be able to forge your own path. Start living for yourself and take back your confidence. Rejoin basketball, get excited about college by ordering the catalogs and envisioning where you might want to live and study. You can shadow careers, which I recommend doing ASAP. I can't tell you how many times I changed my major, or how many people, including myself, weren't a fan of the day-to-day job and wish that they had chosen something else. Focus on the future, because I don't think your family can make up for 16 years. But I've also found that family gets closer when you move out. In my situation personally, that is true. Distance does in fact make the heart grow fonder. OP replies, "Thank you. And I have got a major in mind and have already started applying for colleges. I just hope that I can find a decent scholarship because I don't really want to depend on my parents' money." You know, I'm kind of in a similar boat as you are. I was a very normal child. My parents would say that I was a nice, uncomplicated kid. It took me 21 years to realize that I was constantly emotionally neglected. I had problems with self-harm and interpersonal troubles with my friends, and I could never explain why until recently. I resent my older siblings for having such a strong bond with each other, and I resent my younger brother for getting taken care of by everyone in the family. He's 3 years younger than me and has Down syndrome, which is one of the reasons my parents neglected my emotional needs. They didn't even realize it. Realizing what is actually going wrong is, in my opinion, the biggest step in this entire ordeal. Now you're in the situation where you have to work out what to do with that realization. I would say, don't hide from your family. Listen to what they have to say. Chances are, they don't even realize what they did to you, just like my family. If I talked to them about it, they would feel heartbroken that they did that to me without even noticing. They know about my self-harm, but my mum was emotionally neglected by her parents much more than I was, so she just passed it on to me without realizing how wrong her perception of proper parenting was. So, please talk to your family. I think it would be best to talk to them individually, since, in bigger groups, people tend to get talked over when they don't all have the same thoughts on the matter. Please don't cut ties just yet. I agree, this is the best advice. As they say, what we don't say, we act out. It's very likely their resentment and subsequent treatment of him is completely subconscious. His outburst had made them aware of it. He needs to give them a chance to respond. And now, onto the update. First of all, I want to thank everyone for the amount of support that you guys have given. It was really overwhelming, and I can't express in words how much that meant to me. I was reading all the comments and everything till about 11 to 12, then decided to go home to face the family. I arrived home to quite a melancholic environment. As soon as I arrived, the first thing they all did was hug me, which honestly surprised me. This was probably the first time in years they were showing me any kind of affection. They had prepared some food for me, and after I ate, we had all had a talk. My oldest nephew, 2 years younger than me, who often reads posts from this sub, saw it and showed it to my sister. They all first of all apologized for the way they treated me. They confirmed that I was an accident and none of them wanted to deal with another baby, and I basically screwed up their life plans. They didn't word it this way. They didn't really want to do anything with me, so they just started ignoring me because I never seemed to need anything from them. Their reasoning was that I was always doing great in life. I always did my chores on time, kept my things neat and clean as a kid, always got good grades, never complained about anything, did great in sports, and they just assumed that I never required or wanted anything from them. So they were able to just keep ignoring me and pretend as if I wasn't there, basically. They said that this didn't justify their behavior, especially after they read the post. They just wanted to explain their own actions. I just made it easy for them to ignore me. They all asked me to forgive them for alienating me, and they said they would do their best from now on to make me feel as I was a part of the family. They then wanted to go out and celebrate my birthday, but I was just mentally and physically exhausted, so I just went to sleep, woke up in the evening, and just ended up playing games for the rest of the night, and then went back to sleep. I don't really know how to feel about this. I thought about it long and hard, and I decided that I'll try to form some kind of bond with them, if that's even possible. The one thing I will do is trying to start to work and live for just myself right now. My priority is getting to college right now, and I'll mainly work towards that. If reconciliation doesn't work out, at least I have a goal and purpose in life to work towards until I get away from here. Thanks so much for helping me and supporting me through all of this. If you guys have any further questions, just feel free to ask me, and once again, thank you. And now in the comments, I just wanted to send you a huge, fierce mum hug. You sound like an incredible and resilient person, and I hope you see your worth. You deserve better. I know that you will achieve amazing things. Warmest thoughts and wishes. I think perhaps the most upsetting thing is that your nephew is 2 years younger than you. Being uncomfortable with a much younger sibling is one thing. I have friends in their 20s who have siblings in their 50s, but that sibling could have had you grow up with your nephew. You are only 2 years apart. That age barrier is not there. Your 16-year-old sibling should have still been a good sibling. I'm upset that they asked for immediate forgiveness. They neglected you for your entire life, and now that they know, they feel bad and want to move past it? They should feel bad. But this is something that has weighed on you for your entire life, and based on your interpretation of events, it still does. They need to realize that this is not an easy road. They forsook you, and now they want you to trust and believe in them. I'm not saying cut them out, but don't give in to that. Make them earn it. Make them understand you. Reading a single Reddit post does not mean that they know your feelings. It means they have scratched the surface. Focus on yourself and getting into college. I wasn't there for your first post, so I just want to say that I'm really sorry for how things have gone for the first 16 years of your life. No child should ever be put in your situation. With them at least admitting their faults, I would heavily suggest you push them to get you individual, and if you're comfortable, family therapy. Quick rant on one of their comments, partially because I'm angry for you from the first post, and partially due to its audacity. I just want to comment, however, that I really dislike that they gave any sort of reasoning for their behavior past "we were selfish and acted selfishly," especially when it puts a little bit of the blame on you. You were just easy to ignore. That is not true, no matter how they try and justify it. It doesn't matter how much maintenance you require, a child who is fairly independent and self-sufficient will still get all the love and positive attention that they need in a healthy family. The virtue of being your parent should have gotten you the love and attention that you required. You repeatedly tried to get their attention in a positive way that shouldn't have been needed. You put effort into learning your father's interests, made their birthday special, and many more acts, I'm sure, with no reciprocal acts. It is their own selfishness, and only their selfishness, that denies or did deny you. Please do not take their reasoning comments to heart. What probably ended up happening was your family had a hard look at themselves and thought, "Holy crap, how did we let it get this bad?" But because they probably don't think that they're that bad a person to neglect a child for 16 years, they went with, "Well, if they truly ever needed help, we would have given it to them." It is rude to say that they would have done differently if you had acted differently. It shifts the blame from their unacceptable actions to your behavior that you did or didn't do. End of rant. Preach. Of course they blame it all on you. They're still being selfish, and not just rude, but so callous. A teen who is remarkably in touch with his feelings finally pours his heart out to them, and all they can do is victim blame. And what if OP hadn't been the perfect child? I shudder to think of how he would have been treated because their love isn't even conditional. Yikes. OP, they didn't ignore you because you were fine on your own. You're fine on your own because they ignored you. Look, it's awesome if they're making a real effort, but I would take everything with a grain of salt and remain guarded. The fact it took your nephew showing them your post to actually react, and not you saying you wished you were aborted or adopted, makes me really hesitant. Also, what's your relationship with your nephew/other nieces and nephews? Have they picked up on the adult's behavior, or do you get along? How did they know that the post was yours? And OP replies, "My relationship with nieces and nephews is alright. Nothing special really. They probably found out by when I mentioned the adoption/abortion part. The oldest was supposed to be asleep, but overheard me. Again, I would be guarded knowing that. They completely let that comment go with no real effort to reassure you, but now that you're asking for advice online, they care? Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but I wouldn't 100% trust them. Am I the asshole for reading my coworker's fanfiction in front of everyone at work? I guess the title sounds bad, but please hear me out. I, 27 male, am a general manager at a fast food restaurant. I'm not going to say which because I don't want to get in trouble. With my assistant manager, Sophie, 23 female. Me and Sophie get along pretty well. We joke fight about stuff all the time and like to prank each other a lot. Like prank calls or making the others do fake orders, or writing fake surveys about the other, or splashing soda on the other. We end up working together a lot since we get a bunch of call-outs, especially at night, and Sophie likes to pick up extra hours. We've both climbed up in the couple of years that we've worked there, and we have a good relationship. But when it's dead, Sophie likes to write fanfiction on her phone, which I sometimes tease her about. A while back, I made Sophie read me a line that she was writing, and we were making jokes about it. Last week, I suddenly remembered the fanfiction again and decided to try and find it. I remembered the line that she had read to me and was able to search for it online using quotation marks. I'm not going to say which show it's from because I don't want anyone to find it, but it was shocking to read. Pretty much the two characters in it worked at a fast food chain and ended up falling in love. It got pretty graphic at some parts too. The main character was essentially a representation of Sophie, and the love interest was basically me. I mean, right down to copying conversations that we've had at work. He even had a wife that he was cheating on to be with her. I'm married, but I would never do such a thing. Anyway, a few nights ago, Sophie and the rest of the team threw a party to celebrate a couple of wins, and of course, Sophie pranked me by shoving a cupcake in my face. So, I remembered what I read, and I thought that it would be a good prank. So I pulled up the fanfiction on my phone and I started to read it. When she realized what I was reading, Sophie's eyes started to tear up, which I was not expecting. The rest of the team was joking around with her, but she ran out of the party. Now she's not showing up to her shifts or answering my calls or texts. It's weird that Sophie's acting like this since she usually loves pranks and stuff, so now I'm wondering if I took it too far. But I also feel like she shouldn't have been writing those things about me and her too. Am I the asshole? Funny, interesting prank you got there, OP. It feels like there might be a reason that she's not going to share that fanfiction with you in the first place. Oh, that's right. It kind of seems like you gave us the reason that she didn't share this fanfiction with you in the first place. I don't think you're lacking self-awareness in this situation, OP. I genuinely just think you're a bad person. How can you see her running out crying, not coming to work for days on end and think, I'm not actually the bad guy here if you think about it. I mean, at least I don't think I'm the bad guy. Maybe I am, but that's a bit of an overreaction from her. She shouldn't have been shipping me and her in some wacky fanfiction universe. She had it coming. That wasn't a prank at all. Cupcake in the face, that's a prank. It seems like you liked that one. Reading out fanfiction that someone has intentionally tried to keep away from you and obviously wants private and that doesn't affect the real world, not prank. Cold-hearted, calculated bullying. You're the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, so here is an interesting question for you, OP. What's the prank? What's the joke? What is everyone supposed to laugh at? Oh, that's right. They meant to laugh that Sophie is bad at doing something that she works hard at. Let's all laugh at Sophie. Not because of something funny that she did, not because of something you did to her, just at her efforts and passions. That's not a joke. That was bullying. You're the asshole. And also delusional if you seriously think that a setting and rehashing real conversations means she's using a character as a proxy for you, as opposed to just using what she knows as a part of her writing. Also, Sophie isn't a co-worker, she's a subordinate. Big, you're the asshole. Definitely an inappropriate relationship going on. He would never cheat? Yeah, OP, you're the asshole. He would never cheat, yet they spend most of their shifts together flirting. I am cringing at a married 27-year-old splashing a soda on his 23-year-old subordinate. Like, he's the leadership example? Okay, I'm hearing you out. You were 27 years old, you're a general manager at a restaurant. You deliberately searched out your employee's private creation online and, without permission, shared the entirety of it. Because now everyone can Google a few lines and find the rest, with the rest of the employees with whom you expected her to continue working. No, that doesn't sit right. Let's try again. You were 27, married, and spend many hours a week with a 23-year-old woman who, among other talents, is a writer. The two of you have become rather close friends and built a degree of trust. Out of curiosity, you once decided to sneak around to locate something she wrote about without mentioning it to her. Now you reflect on her lack of communication with you following a celebration with mutual friends, where you used that writing to humiliate her in front of those friends. Nope. No, not working for me. Let's try one more time. A 23-year-old employee at a restaurant is good at her job and actually enjoys spending time with the people she works with. Maybe she thinks the manager is kinda cute, but he's married and she would never go there. Her outlet after a long day of dealing with crazy customers and other stuff is to sit down with a laptop or tablet or phone and write various fiction. Sometimes she shares her writing under a pen name among a group of other writers, but she would never hand out her stories to people who she knows in real life. One day, while celebrating with her coworkers, her general manager steps up and begins reading one of her stories out loud to make everyone laugh. She didn't share this story with him or with anyone. It was private. It was just hers. It was all of her fears and frustrations and stress and imagination, all poured out in the form of a story that could have a life of its own. Now her friend is a traitor, her writing is a public mockery, and her job has become a hostile workplace. While you're baffled that Sophie hasn't come to work or spoken to you, Sophie is dealing with a whole lot. She doesn't have time or space in her thoughts for your bullcrap text messages and calls. You broke it, all of it. But not Sophie, because nothing will break Sophie. You can bet your job on that. At what point do you decide, all on your own, that you are the villain here? You really shouldn't need anyone else to tell you that you're the asshole. But there is a decent possibility that the guy who knocks on your door and demands a signature confirming you've been served will deliver the message in writing. Or maybe you'll get lucky and it'll just be HR that calls you in to account for yourself. And now, on to the update. Thank you everyone for reading and giving your honest feedback. It's been a couple of weeks since I first posted that day, and I want to let you know that I read most of your comments and had a hard time accepting that I'm the asshole. However, after reading and rereading and remembering the situation, I feel that your votes are fair. A lot of you advised that I leave Sophie alone, which I did. But what surprised me is that she actually came into work to her next scheduled shift after that post went up. I was intending on leaving her alone, but she approached me first, so we sat in the back room and had a discussion. I was ready for her to hand in her resignation or talk about taking this to the higher-ups, as some of you had said, but instead, she apologized to me. She said that she was sorry for writing fanfiction at work and for including personal stories. She admitted that the character was about me after all. After reading all of your comments, I was beginning to think that our time together was just inspiration, but she ended up confessing to me. I told Sophie that she had no reason to be sorry and that I had to be responsible for my actions. I acted inappropriately with her at work and allowed these feelings to develop instead of setting boundaries. I also humiliated her and read her diary in front of the whole class, and I deeply apologized. She actually ended up laughing about it, but I do admit that it felt kind of like she was taking the higher ground and trying not to seem that hurt by it. I asked her if she wanted to transfer to a different location, and she said no. She also said she wasn't looking for a new job. I had a separate talk with the rest of the team about what happened, and she joked around with them. Sophie's maturity taught me a lot about myself and things that I need to work on, so that's what I've been doing. She and the rest of the team still like to do pranks, but I am staying out of it now. As a manager, I've got to be in control and focus on the success of the restaurant. Sophie and I are on good terms again, but we've established clear boundaries, and it seems that she is starting to move on. Thank you all again for helping me realize that I'm the asshole. And now in the comments, well, would you look at that? Growth and learning. Sophie sounds like a damn trooper. Positive ending, but boy, it still made me mad. I think I'm still pissed off at OP because it brought up multiple times that he's married, but yet not one mention of what his wife thinks of his subordinate falling for him and continuing to work with him. Somehow, in all of these, the title sounds bad, but listen first, stories, the title actually makes it sound better. While I'm glad he's understanding of how he screwed up, if someone decided to expose my fanfics to my team, I would never look at them ever again. Shit's personal, y'all. Nice to see someone really take in what people tell them about their actions, but still, oof. As for Sophie, I don't even know. OP calls it maturity, but if she is for real that into a married manager that way, then looking for another job might actually be the better option for looking after herself. But maybe she just said that she's not looking and is actually doing so. I can hope. Our next post is titled, My 25 female, boyfriend's 25 male grandfather threatened to kill me. Should I end the relationship? For context, I met my boyfriend 6 months ago while traveling. His family is extremely wealthy. Think billionaires. And I'm pretty sure they have some sort of mafia kind of relationship to the country that they reside in. This is conjecture, but their wealth is very real. The things I've heard from him about the family are insane. Their behavior is definitely not normal. The things they do remind me of some evil family out of a novel. If it wasn't for the fact that I fell in love with my kind and caring boyfriend before hearing about this, I would not have entered this relationship. I am planning on visiting my boyfriend in his family's country soon, and he has told his other family members when I would be arriving. His grandfather, a man who has been banned from 11 restaurants for how he acts, who has to have a bodyguard with him because he's angered so many people by threatening to kill them that it's created many grudges against him, who forced his own maid to have an affair with him, who threatened to shoot a government official in his face, seems like he has decided that he dislikes me. These are some of the tamer anecdotes from this family. My boyfriend told me that his grandfather threatened to put me in concrete and throw me off a cliff, but my boyfriend wouldn't let him. Say what now? OP, is it a good idea to stay in this relationship? Is it a good idea to go to this country? What in God's name is going on here? This has me rethinking the entire trip as I no longer feel safe. I told my boyfriend and he was upset, stating this is how his grandfather jokes, and he obviously wouldn't do anything to me. But I'm not sure. Hey guys, Marky here, just a little prank. If any of you guys ever come to visit me, I'm gonna put all of you in concrete and throw you off a cliff. You like my jokes? I'm gonna kill you. It's a good joke. I don't even know why his crazy grandpa decided that he dislikes me all of a sudden. My boyfriend is normal, but he is very desensitized to the insanity of his family and doesn't understand why I'm afraid to visit him now. What do I do? Should this relationship be over? I do love my boyfriend, and he plans on moving to my country eventually, so it's not like I'll have to deal with his family a lot. But if I can't ever visit him in a place that he considers home, and he doesn't understand my fears, I'm not sure about the longevity of our relationship. Yeah, OP, I'm not sure about the longevity of your life if you stay in this relationship with this guy. Never mind being star-crossed lovers that can never go back to his home country because you've actually done nothing wrong, and yet you're getting death threats already from his family. I might say, that could potentially be a red flag. That may in fact be a red flag. In this situation, I'd rather take my parents role-playing as me on a couch than having my boyfriend's grandfather threaten my life in such a vulgar way that, I don't know, I don't think you deserve this. He has given you the perfect opportunity to break up with him before you end up 6 feet deep potentially. You don't even know the guy, and he's already doing this. Imagine if you went to the country, it turns out he is joking, but these jokes never stop. How much is your sanity worth for them to continually keep making these jokes until it's just like more graphic and it's more realistic and he's like, you know I was kidding about killing you. No, I was actually going to take your entire family over here, tie you to a chair, and have you watch me kill all of them one by one. Isn't that a funny prank? Anyway, let's get to the comments. This has been fun. Yep, I'm not going to go to any foreign country where billionaires have expressed they want to kill me, especially if they're connected to some sort of mafia or cartel. Your boyfriend ain't going to protect you if they actually want to do harm to you, and if they are as crazy as he makes them sound, then why risk it? If he can't understand why you don't want to go to a place where your life was threatened, then he ain't the one. Reddit's like, my boyfriend's billionaire family may or may not be in the criminal underworld, and his crazy grandfather, who may or may not lead the gang and has a bodyguard for other people's safety, keeps threatening my life. Yo, should I travel to a mansion surrounded by dudes with machine guns in Colombia with him? My boyfriend says that it's all a joke, and he thinks it's cute when Grampy wants to encase someone in concrete, and he's a nice guy. Oh my god! The only reason you know anything about what the grandfather said about you is because boyfriend told you. Ever stop to wonder why he would do that? And OP replies, I don't know why he would. It doesn't make any sense to tell me someone wants to throw me off a cliff who has a history of violence. He has a weird sense of humor, and he may have found it funny or something. Part of me thinks he's so desensitized to how his family behaves that he doesn't see it as being as scary as it is. But now I'm also questioning why he would tell me that. No, come on, figure it out, please. It's funny how weird sense of humor always seems to mean little edgelord crap who is mean to his partner. My unstable, abusive grandfather told me he wanted to murder my girlfriend. Haha, so hilarious. That is going to be a super hard no for me. Either he doesn't see an issue with the terrible way his grandpa treats people, and pretending the problem doesn't exist while still associating his family as him being okay without regardless of what he tells you, and or he wants to come off as protecting you, so you don't think too hard about the fact that he's the reason that you need protection. The fact that he doesn't understand why this makes you feel unsafe doesn't sound good to me. What if you are with his family and his grandfather says something like this and your boyfriend just laughs? Will you feel okay about that or uncomfortable/scared? In the end, you have to ask yourself if you feel like this is the foundation of a stable and strong relationship, if he's going to think threats like this are just fun jokes. If the answer is no, I think you should reconsider your relationship. And OP replies, thank you. This was a very helpful comment in what I was trying to frame this as. We can see it in action. They can't form sentences properly. They too are beginning to lose their mind. Back up to the post, we have an edit. To address some comments, I decided not to go on the trip, but I don't know about breaking up with my boyfriend. We have a great relationship, and he's a great boyfriend when he visits, and even during our long-distance video calls. I need to have a long conversation about his family and going no contact with them in the future because, as I've said in the comments, that side of his family is a mess. For commenters saying not to do this for the money, I'm not. I have a professional career that supports me comfortably. For people who think this isn't real, unfortunately, it really is. I know how insane it sounds, and that's why I'm on Reddit, because I couldn't wrap my head around it myself. Addressing the assault situation, as I said before, I think it is assault/the R word, but I don't really know the details. I didn't want to know in detail because it's frightening to even think about. Thank you to all the commenters with good advice. And now, on to the update. I had a long talk with my boyfriend this morning about his family and cancelling the trip. He was initially upset about me no longer coming to see him, as he really did want to show me the country that he grew up in and spend time with me here. He didn't really intend to make me spend a lot of time with his family. Regardless, I did not feel comfortable either way spending time with people I find to be objectively evil as them. Although my post focused on his grandfather, his actions pale in comparison to his uncle, and his mother is also insane too. Just... wow, one basket of crazies. Even more reason to go hang out with these sane and undoubtedly charitable people. He decided that he would come see me instead, which is usually what we do. He clarified that his grandfather was really joking. I posted a screenshot of our text messages in another comment, but his grandfather was playfully threatening my boyfriend with throwing me off a cliff covered in concrete as a means to get him to do something. He offered to let me talk to his grandfather, but I refused. Still, I will not be risking it, so I'm not going. A lot of commenters on my last post gave me a lot of things to think about in regards to my relationship. One commenter asked whether or not my boyfriend being surrounded by such shitty people means that he sees having a mistress as normal, etc., and might bring that into our relationship going forward. Another one asked whether my boyfriend, coming from such wealth, can ever truly disentangle himself from his family with that much money involved. A lot of people were outraged at my boyfriend still having a relationship with his grandfather despite what he has done. I brought all of this up to my boyfriend, especially how worrying it is to me that he seems so desensitized to how evil his family is. A lot of the stuff that I couldn't bring up in my last post. My boyfriend told me that he holds none of the values his family has. He spent a significant part of his life with his other parents' family in another country who were actually good people, so I think that's why he ended up so normal in comparison to his other relatives. He told me he would never cheat on me, that he has been thinking lately that I'm the one, and he would love nothing more than to spend the rest of his life away from his family and with me. I asked him if that was possible, considering the financial aspect. He told me he originally had worked under the umbrella of his family's companies at one time, but could not go on because of how they treated the poorer workers there, and he didn't feel right about it. One member of his family called him soft because he actually treated the people there humanely and kindly, and that he doesn't have what it takes in the family because of that. Now he has his own company, but it doesn't have anything to do with that side of the family. He's running the company with the help of the other side of his family, which I said before is normal. He said that he plans to sell that business eventually and move here when we decide to take that step. I asked him whether or not he would be able to go no contact with his relatives. As I said before in the edits, his family also did a lot of messed up stuff to him growing up and are also disappointed in him for not being more involved in their businesses. He told me that he never intended to spend the rest of his life near them, and while he thinks they are insane, he doesn't necessarily hate them. He told me he would never invite them into our lives if that's what I wanted, that there have been many family members who move to foreign countries and live normally, and they don't have anything to do with the main family. That made me feel better about the whole thing. He said that eventually he may have to return to his country briefly to deal with any inheritance that his grandfather may leave him. But outside of that, going low to no contact is fine with him. I feel like this conversation was enough to keep moving forward with our relationship, unless he shows me that none of the stuff he has said here is true. This brings me to the biggest question a lot of people had. Is this 6-month relationship worth being connected to that kind of family? My boyfriend has been one of the gentlest, sweetest relationships that I have ever been in. He writes me love letters often. He buys me silly sentimental things, even if I just mention it in passing. And he also plays me love songs on his instrument. He is extremely attractive, and our sex life is great. I can tell there are parts of him that are messed up a bit from his environment, but the fundamental part of him that I'm attracted to is his kindness, not just to me, but to everyone I have seen and heard him interact with. I am not interested in my boyfriend's family's money. I do well enough in my own career, and even if he was penniless, it would be very easy to support us myself. If I felt like my life was truly in danger here just by being in a relationship with him, or that he would ever retaliate against me if we ever broke up, I would feel differently, and we would no longer be together. While my boyfriend's family has their own paramilitary force in their own country, they don't really have any influence here in my country, and they don't seem interested in any part of their family that has moved away from them and living their own normal lives. I think I'm safe, and I thank others for being worried about me. I hope that alleviates a lot of the worries that commenters have. I really want to thank people who have messaged and commented really good advice and questions to bring up in my relationship. This was a really crazy situation that I have never been in before. I didn't really have a litmus on what is normal or how to proceed constructively, and writing this post has been extremely helpful. This is the final update that I will post on this account, unless his crazy grandfather really does come for my life. But I doubt that that will happen, as there are many people who he has made that threat to and still remain breathing until today. And now in the comments, thinking in the long run, if you guys get married, you will also get married into his family. No contact or low contact. He's part of the bigger picture, so take your time to get to know him and see where it goes. 6 months is nothing. Time to enjoy, but also stay real. OP replies, yes, we decided he will keep on visiting me until we both feel ready to move forward with a relationship, and he will eventually move here. I don't intend on ever visiting his family or home country. Love letters and songs and gifts and being handsome are great, but none of those qualities are needed for a healthy relationship. That is all fairy tale rom-com stuff which often disappears as the relationship progresses. Quote, I can tell there are parts of him that are messed up a bit from his environment. You've only known him for 6 months. Based on the level of crazy in his family, I would proceed with extreme caution with this guy, and don't brush aside any red flags. Get to really know him. How does he behave when you say no? How does he handle a crisis? Is he responsible? Does he keep his place in order? Does he have real friends? How does he talk about his exes? These are all important factors if you want a future with him. And OP replies, those were things that I really loved about him. But yes, he hasn't really exhibited a major red flag outside of this instance of brushing off the fact that his grandfather jokingly threatens to kill me. When I tell him no, he does spend some time trying to convince me otherwise, but ultimately accepts it. He is pretty responsible and keeps his own apartment clean. He has a dog he cares for that literally lives like a princess. He does have normal friends that seem nice and are not insane. He talks about his exes in more of a passive way. Not rudely, but yeah, this happened and those relationships ended for X reasons. I do plan on keeping an eye out. I feel like this situation made me put my foot on the brake more so than before, and I will be watching to make sure he remains true to what he said before I decide to take the next step with him. This title is low-key hilarious. My boyfriend's family told him in detail how they will kill me and where they're gonna bury my body. Would it be rude if I skipped the family reunion? Right? My first thought after reading to the end was, welp, she gon' die. It is the same feeling I get when I'm watching a movie or show and realize it's going to end poorly for that character, aka a totally unfounded feeling. My dad is worried about me and wants to have a long conversation. I think he's going to proselytize despite my request not to. Honestly, I'm kinda surprised he hasn't tried before now, but I suppose my lesbian sister's relationship and marriage was more on his mind than my quiet spirituality. He sprung that statement on me while driving to my nana's with my toddler for a post-Christmas visit 2 days ago. And I've been panicking about it. We used to have hours-long conversations growing up whenever I was in the wrong. Think the interrogation videos on YouTube with the false sincerity from the cops. Except he truly thought that he was helping, and I'm terrified of them now, to the point that I visited my parents' home once since they moved to Montana back in 2014. My husband hugged me and said he would be there for any sort of conversation, phone or in person, and that I'm a grown adult that can walk away at any time, but I can't expect to still have a relationship with him or my mom. I still love them both, even as I think that they are both misguided. He's just worried about my soul, per his religion, and I can't fault him for that. He told my sister-in-law that he couldn't attend their wedding because his God told him that he couldn't. And now I feel like he feels like they're irredeemable, and so now he's going to try and save me. Gods above and below, I am scared. I don't know what to do. I hate this hanging above me. Please help? Has anyone else gone through this? Have you managed to have a nice, respectful conversation where the Christian party feels that they've tried but understand nothing will change and so need to back off? Now in the comments, I feel for you. I have been where you are, though not because of my religion. Here's my advice based on hard experience. Set clear limits before the conversation if you really feel you can't avoid it or refuse it. Say, Dad, I love you. I fear that if this conversation you want to have is about religion, and that if I don't respond the way you want me to respond, it will make you reject me, as I feel you've rejected my sister. I need you to promise beforehand that this won't happen. I need you to promise that I can choose when this conversation is over. Finally, I need you to stick to that promise, or it is the last time that we can talk about this topic. Please know that I love you, I treasure our relationship, and I'm placing these conditions because I am scared that you will reject me. Don't place limits on the content of the conversation. Let him say his piece, so long as he doesn't try to drag it out for hours. Listen and respond concisely from your heart. Who knows? Maybe the Christian Holy Spirit will visit you as at the first Pentecost, and you will renounce your adulterous ways. In any case, if you don't feel inclined to permanently avoid this conversation and its inherent risks, you'd best rip it off like a band-aid. If he agrees to your terms and then violates any of them, tell him that you love him and you're there for him, but that right now, you need to remove yourself from the situation as per your agreement. Then leave. Don't argue, don't recriminate, and don't seek either to refute his arguments in favor of his faith or defend your own. Do not counter-proselytize. I know you know that now, but it's vital to remember it in the moment. You are positioning yourself as the adult. Act like it. Make it clear that you are protecting the relationship by leaving before either of you gets so scared or so mad that you say something hurtful. Okay, or at least more hurtful than what's already been said. Wait a day or two and then check in by phone. If he tries to restart the conversation, tell him that you have to go. Rinse and repeat as necessary. No one likes talking to a brick wall, and he may eventually give in. This advice isn't likely to completely avoid a blow-up, but it preserves the possibility of a healthy adult relationship between you. It preserves lines of communication, even if they are limited. It gives your dad a way out if he eventually wants to take it. Remember, unless he's a full-blown narcissist and you just didn't mention it here, he loves you. Even if he is treating you as a child over whom he has authority, he wants to be connected to you. Also, you have his grandkid. He and your mum are both likely to want to grandparent, and may well give in for that reason. I won't lie, this sucks. All you can do is genuinely take the moral high ground and claim your status as an adult. That may be experiencing fear and pain, but you can and will get through it. Remember that no matter how much his behavior hurts you, it is neither your responsibility nor your prerogative to fix any breach that he creates. He has autonomy as you have it. All you can do is love him and live your own life. Take a deep breath and hold your course. I feel for you. Back up to the post, there is an edit. Just got back from a trip to the zoo with toddler in an attempt to calm down. Thank you all for responding. I'm going to go through the suggestions now and will report back. Oh, and as a quick clarifying note, for what it's worth, I bring my sister up here only because apparently, in their many conversations over the years, which ultimately resulted in his absence from her wedding, my sister kept asking why Dad was okay to attend my clearly non-religious wedding and even help financially, even though I came out as a pagan a year or so later, and he can't with her. Sister apologized for sicking him on me when I called her to ask if she knew anything. I have no problem whatsoever with her bringing up his hypocrisy and agree. As I told her, he is illogical and emotional. Arguing logic will do nothing, and we will never change his viewpoint. We need to mourn the relationship that we want and we deserve as his kids and come to find a middle ground forward. Damn it all. I just thought that he'd gotten the memo about the religious piece and come to terms with it. Well, he'll have to find closure on his own. Hopefully he'll still love us enough to try, but I'm frankly doubting that these days. And now on to the update. TLDR, Dad wanted to talk to me about my pagan faith. I drew a line with my dad about religious conversations. He hasn't spoken to me in 2+ weeks. Mum tried to be a martyr and got shut down. My sister is proud of me. Thanks for being awesome, everyone. Okay, so thank you everyone for your advice and feedback on this post. Truly, it was nice to know that I wasn't alone, even if everyone else seemed to have the same sense of foreboding that I did. Granted, I framed the situation from my perspective, so it is a biased account. Anyway, I thought I owed it to everyone to offer up an update as to what happened. Here are the full text conversations that I had with the whole family, including my sister who says she is proud of me, that are far too long to read for this story. At some point while riding high on confidence from the first post, I sent my mum and dad a very long text message that I thought was fairly clear. Dad didn't reply until 3 days later. He has not otherwise responded or spoken to me on an individual basis. It will remain like that until he decides that he is willing to play ball. Mum responded to me the day after Dad did. She's usually one to take a martyr's approach. Sorry I suck so much, or to act as an apologist for my father's behavior. She typically gets a bye because she's reasonable by comparison, even when she never says so straight up. She just lets you confirm what you want to think so that everyone gets along and struggle is swept under the rug so that we can all continue as a happy family. This is my first time putting the screws to her on something like this, and then she twists the whole situation into a wildly incorrect and willful misinterpretation. I cannot promise I will never show the part of me that is Christian. Like, what the hell? I also called my very Christian sister-in-law on my husband's side to get the point of view of someone closer to my parents' side. She helped calm me down and confirmed that the way that they were going about it was very, very wrong, even for a conservative sect like the one that she belongs to. She's a lovely lady. So basically, as it stands, sister and sister-in-law are welcome as always, Mum and I are continuing to talk, and I will try to have a relationship, even a superficial one, though I will never be going out to their house while this is still a problem. Amusingly, Mum sent me a thank you card for Christmas presents this year, unsigned by Dad, but thanking me for the gifts that were explicitly his. Dad and I have had no conversation since the 3rd of January, and it will remain that way until I can have him confirm that he will toe the line on my boundaries. He's trying to sneak into the family chat, i.e., Mum posts something there, sister and I respond, Dad adds pics or additional detail. But I've been taking to acknowledging Mum's posts privately and have otherwise switched over to a different group chat that I've dubbed the Sane Family Chat. For an extinction event, that was altogether fairly calm, but highlighted just how effed up my family's communication is. My husband said, "What the hell?" more than once when I was trying to interpret the between-the-lines messaging to him, and I will definitely be pursuing therapy this year. To all of you who commented last time, offered advice, or just plain sympathy, thank you so much. That truly meant the world to me. To anyone else who may be in a similar situation with their faith in their family, my advice would be to attack it head-on and address it proactively with boundaries so that you can control the conversation. Make sure that your support system, in this case, husband and sister/sister-in-law, know what's coming so they can support where needed and appropriate, and don't draw boundaries that you can't or won't enforce. I'm financially divorced from my parents and have been for years, to the point where I refuse to let them pay even partially for my son's daycare and or pay off my student loans when they offered several years ago. I moved out of their house almost 10 years ago. Don't pull this sort of thing if you aren't in a position of strength where you can withdraw and enforce those boundaries if you need to. Suck it up, save it, and get out ASAP so you can. Protect yourself first. And now in the comments, millennials setting boundaries with their boomer parents is so hot right now. What's funny to me is that my parents were war babies, born in 1941 and 1942, and the conflict described in the post is a conflict they had with my grandparents, born between 1905 and 1919. Nothing new under the sun, I guess. Yeah, I'm a millennial with old Gen X parents, and this is not a generations thing so much as it's a generations thing. Lol. Young people are young people, and old people are old people. My mum took a sick day when Kurt Cobain died, and still sat me down for a satanic panic intervention the first time she saw me in black nail polish. Honestly, I'm a baby millennial/very elder zoomer with Gen X parents, and stories like this get me going. I don't know if you can have a justice boner if you don't have the anatomical bits for it, but it sure feels like I do. I wish we had a cultural cheerleading phrase or something. Some way to say, look at you responsible, self-appreciating badass, setting boundaries, kicking ass, protecting your parents. I am so damn proud of you. You know, basically an excited, who's a good doggo kind of thing, but for people taking care of themselves after generations of being called selfish for it. More Christians should take the lead by example stance if they care so much about converting others. I can't believe how selfish the dad is being. It's still his daughter. Like, he suddenly can't love her anymore? It is the lack of control, I think, that terrifies the older generation. When some elders are presented with having to have respectful discussions and politely agree to disagree, instead of the authoritative, because I'm your father, mother, elder, and I said so, they're lost. This wasn't how they were raised. They swallowed their rage at hypocrisy of their older generation, just waiting for their turn at the top to enjoy the same power. But now that it's their turn, the rules have changed. Mindless obedience is gone, and accountability is now here. They paid their dues and now can't get the reward that they expect from younger generations. It would be tragic if it weren't so ridiculous. This next title is so weird. I have designed a ritual and have prepared myself to perform it. An evocation of King Paimon during the full moon for a very specific request. I'm excited because this is my first big evocation. I have my sigils ready, my goetic stars, my time frame, purpose, intent, and willpower. All is aligned. I am ready. I plan to report back on my results at the expiration of my time frame. If anyone will be interested, along with the process with photos, and my deep gratitude to King Paimon for his assistance. This post is part of my ritual process. Please be courteous and wish me luck. I apologize if I have offended anyone. And now, an update on my first evocation of King Paimon, and worthy he is of praise. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for being so supportive in the comments of my first post. That really galvanized me and helped me feel like I had people in my corner despite not knowing any of you. So a huge thanks. Second, I'd like to shout out to King Paimon for his patience and understanding, and potency. I began seeing results in 24 hours related to a working that I did weeks ago, which came to fruition shortly after my evocation. I have no doubt King Paimon had a lot to do with that, despite this current ritual not being related. Third, this will not be the full write-up with photos, as I will save that for when the time frame expires and my desire is granted. That final update/post will come in 2 or so weeks. So I used a combination of my own geometric magic, the Psychonaut field manual, and the Gosha. I called out, and King Paimon answered. He was patient with me, and amusedly remarked at one point that I was overdoing it. At the end, things started to get weird, and he said, "Banish, boy, banish!" At which point, I performed my customized banishing/cleansing ritual. It's more of a cleanse and protect because I felt like a banishment would be rude. So true, just like me after a hot date, am I right? So if anyone plans on following my footsteps in their own way, I would definitely recommend brushing up on your banishing/LBRP. King Paimon accepted my offer of exchange and told me he would grant my desire. It was all fairly straightforward once my preparations and initial workings were in place. I'm excited to detail the entire experience, but again, we'll wait until King Paimon completes the task that he accepted, and I have my results. Cheers to all of you! Now in the comments, so did you have a physical and auditory manifestation of Paimon in waking consciousness? I've always been interested in the sensory experience of these evocations. OP did not respond. Very cool. I'm confused though. Why would he suggest you banish? Seems like he could flick his wrist at any unwelcome party crashes, or end the session himself if he felt like it. Also curious, what was the offer, if it's not too personal? OP did not respond. Thanks for sharing. I invoked King Paimon a couple months ago, and I gave him a task which he then completed perfectly. I didn't do any banishing rituals, and it worked out fine. Don't try it though, just to be sure. We wouldn't want King Paimon breaking into our house at midnight and covering our feet in concrete and chucking us into a river now, would we? Opens door. King Paimon, what are you doing on my father's lap dressed as me? Excuse me! All I did was the quabalistic cross to center myself before contacting him. And now onto the final update. Guys, this is how magic really works. Let me just say how excited and happy I am. Willpower, intent, action. For some background, I needed something, a life and career-altering something. So I worked my ass off for this something, but I was nervous. I had been unsuccessful in pursuing this something before and needed to get it this time. So, I invoked King Paimon and asked him to ensure that I obtained it. After, of course, I had put all of my own effort and work in, as it should be. The Gosha indicates that he has the ability to bestow dignities and lordships. Obtaining the object of my desire would bestow a dignity upon me, which is why I selected him. I used the Psychonaut field manual for the framework of my working. I sigilized my 3 identities, super, sub, and self-conscious. I created a sigil for my personal LBRP/cleansing ritual. I don't like the idea of banishing, so it's more of a cleanse and protect. Remember kids, cleanse and protect every time. We wouldn't want any occultish STDs to go around now, would we? I created my goetic star. Rather than draw a big one and sit in it, I put my mind inside the one in my journal. I saw no need for a physical space, as all that I intended to do was metaphysical. Here is a nice drawing of their circles. I don't know what any of this means, but I'm sure some of you guys could derive meaning from it. At the top you can see the summoning vessel with King Paimon's sigil inside, linked to the sigil I created which reflected the granting of my desire. To the right of that is the sigil for my protective doppelganger, who accompanies me in evocations to take the heat if anything goes awry. At the very bottom of the page is the sigil for my cleansing ritual, which I called upon and meditated on before and after the evocation. In the middle is my goetic star/summoning vehicle for myself. I placed all 3 of my consciousnesses within and began my evocation with an empty and clear mind. A static wick the PFM called Gnosis. Everything was pretty straightforward, and I wanted to keep it simple so that I could hold all of the emblems in my mind at the same time. I called him using a formula I had. That didn't seem to work that effectively. Instead, I basically just asked him to show up, earnestly, and not by formula, and he did. I made sure to ask that he communicate with me in a manner that I'd immediately understand. He accepted my terms and agreed to grant my desire. My conversation with him took place in my mind. He used my own voice to speak to me. What else would I immediately understand? Some weirdness occurred. He said that I was overdoing it at one point. He seemed amused. I then ended up needing my cleansing ritual because I got a little trapped/too far into the ritual and had a hard time breaking my mind out of it and into reality. I ended up safe and sound. Preparation is key, that's what she said. I didn't feel any ill will from him. The danger was my own mind. A few weeks later, I called upon him the night before the deadline. He actually refused to come, and I instead spoke to a subordinate. That subordinate himself relayed that Paimon himself was good-naturedly annoyed with me because what I asked him to do, I evidently did myself. My own preparation was sufficient, and his assistance was largely unnecessary. I asked if I'd be getting what I wanted, and his subordinate told me that my desire was granted, and I would receive it the next day. I saw a few cool things in my mind's eye/third eye, which I won't mention here. Essentially a vision of my desire granted, in a sense. What was communicated was that if I'm going to call on him again, to actually give him something to do. I suppose he really meant it when he said, in my initial working, that I was overdoing it. That in itself was gratifying. It is good to over-prepare, and I think that that's the basis of magic anyway. Do it yourself, put the effort in, and the world bends to accommodate your will. That's the lesson learned today. It'll be a while before I call up anyone again, since the next day my desire was granted, and I got what I wanted. Too cool. And now in the comments, wow, when even the demon thinks you're overdoing it. Quote, I worked my ass off, as detailed above, didn't go straight to demons for help. I don't know why, but that line had me on the floor. I wish I could hook up with a demon for some stability in my life. Honestly, after my parents and my ex and the cabal of crazies that he calls his family, a demon would have been better than either of them for stability. Honestly, at least with a demon you would know their motivation and alignment. Second, I'd like to shout out to King Paimon. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more demonic content. This video is sponsored by the Gosha. I don't understand. I was really hoping the final update was going to be like, it's happened everyone. I'm the new assistant manager at my local Subway. Hell yeah. Thanks, King Paimon. There's something really funny about seeing people argue about whether summoning demons is harder than using homemade celestial talismans to achieve something. I think it's just because they're talking like whether using one hammer is easier than using another hammer. It's like arguing if Darth Vader could defeat Dracula. He could, by the way. Vader would totally win against the Count. I don't know about that. Depends on the version of Dracula. We talking about traditional novel version? We talking Van Helsing version of Dracula? The movie version with Hugh Jackman? Probably on both of those. Or are we talking about Alucard/Dracula from the manga and the Helsing Ultimas OVAs? And the anime, even if I find it kinda meh. I doubt that Vader is going to kill millions of undead vampire familiars while tanking hits from Castle Pistol, let alone the Jackal. Not to mention he has no real way to actually kill Alucard. I realize that's the point of your post, but how could I not have an argument about Vader versus Dracula, man? That is prime 6th grade middle school lunch, eating those square pizzas they made every Friday material right there. Can I tell my husband's doctor that he is an alcoholic? My spouse is a severe alcoholic who has just started seeing a primary care physician after an ultimatum. He lied to his physician about how much he drinks. The physician is concerned about his blood pressure, but doesn't know that it's tied to his alcoholism. He's on a new med that simultaneously helps with blood pressure and cirrhosis, but as far as I know, the doctor hasn't checked his liver function, etc. Would it be wrong to get a hold of the doctor and tell him my husband is an alcoholic before his next appointment? I would like to give my husband the best chance of survival, and I feel that this would help. And now in the comments, you can tell the doctor, but the doctor can't discuss your husband's medical info with you unless your husband okays it. And Dopey replies, I wouldn't be asking for my husband's medical info. I would just be informing the doctor. He can stay silent on the call as long as he listens. My husband, who is a recovering alcoholic, says give an ultimatum out of love, as in, I love you. Because I love you and want you to be healthy and happy, you need to tell your doctor the truth about your alcoholism. If you don't tell him, I will have to. If you were to tell the doctor behind his back, he would lose a lot of trust and respect. You can and should. How will your husband react? And OP replies, angry, upset, disappointed, maybe break up with me? Who knows? But I tried everything else. I can't sit by while he's taking meds while drinking that could shut his organs down, etc. As a recovering alcoholic and happily married man to the woman who ultimately saved my life, please do. I was not strong enough, because of the disease, to save my own life, but she was. It wasn't easy, and I was angry at times because that's the last thing an alcoholic wants: change. Remove the veil. Tell the doctor. And now, on to the update. So I wanted to take a moment to make an update, especially if anyone else is in my situation. My husband is a brilliant, high-functioning man who is able to get up for work at 5:30 a.m. every morning, but can also drink many bottles of wine a night. He refused to go to the doctor for years, but finally went. After several appointments, the doctor noted he had high blood pressure, but did not understand the likely cause because my husband was not honest with him. I know he was not honest with him because my husband told me he did not tell the doctor about his drinking problem. There was a lot of pleading with my husband to either tell the doctor or to allow me to tell him by accompanying him to a visit or otherwise. The answer was no. I know many folks advised me against calling the doctor to let him know, but I felt strongly that the medicine could inadvertently kill, given that it's contraindicated to alcohol. I watched someone close pass after she followed the same path and ended up on dialysis at the age of 60. Anyway, for me, it boiled down to the fact that this could save my husband's life. Would I regret not telling the doctor if my husband died? And yes, I would. I called the doctor, and he called me back. I told him that I knew that he couldn't discuss my husband's medical conditions with me, but I wanted him to listen to me, and he did. He was the most compassionate, wonderful soul and said the information was very helpful, that he was there for my husband when he was ready to open up about it, and that he was there for me as well. I did not ask the doctor to keep the call a secret, so I don't know whether he will tell my husband tomorrow at his appointment that I called. But I would rather be the enemy for breaking trust than lose my husband from this world. And I don't believe there is any other world, but that is neither here nor there. We'll see if you ask King Paimon. Just kidding. And frankly, I'd even rather that my husband had a new wife, if he chooses to leave me over this, than have to witness his death. I hope that none of you are ever in this situation, but please understand that I feel my own hard decision here was thrust upon me by him/his disease. And now in the comments, bravo, bravo, well done, bravo. Quote, frankly, I'd even rather that my husband had a new wife than have to witness his death. I am exactly the same with those I love. I think I would tell him that I had done this before he sees his doctor next and tell him why. Say, I'd rather have you alive and hating me than dead. I'm putting your needs ahead of your wants. Sometimes doing what is best for those we love is very difficult. I am proud of you, and I promise your husband will thank you for helping him eventually, even if his first reaction is anger. Hypertension is absolutely no joke and incredibly dangerous, much more than most people realize. And now on to the last update, ? My husband had his appointment late last week, and the doctor immediately told him that I had called and told him what I had said. After that appointment, my husband immediately confronted me. But guys, he was certainly angry that I went behind his back and that I lied, his words, about how much he drinks, and then he seemed almost thankful. I could see the look of betrayal in his eyes all night long, but I could also see how much he loved me. We hugged a lot that night, and he apologized for what he was putting me through. He said the doctor was very helpful. He told him he can have 2 drinks a night on his medicine, but a bottle is not okay. He also said he was potassium deficient from drinking on the meds, something he hadn't noticed before because he didn't know about the alcoholism, and told him he needs potassium. I feel like this doctor is very much our lifeline, our hope that we will grow old together. I am so happy that I did this. And if my husband doesn't make life changes, I will at least know that I tried everything that I could. And now in the comments, hell yes. This internet stranger is proud of you. I know it wasn't easy, and that you were scared, but you did it, and you gave your husband the best chance at a bright future. Alcoholics often feel betrayed when people acknowledge their alcoholism, but you did everything you could to save your marriage and save his life. I hope he pulls things together and that he then thanks you profusely for your patience and your intervention in his medical care. I'm glad it worked out for you. I'm one of the people that was adamant that you not tell the doctor. There is no such thing as just 2 drinks for an alcoholic. That is laughable. It's 0 drinks or too many. We will tell you whatever the F you need to hear so we can keep using. Only you can know if he's at rock bottom, but based on your story, he's nowhere near rock bottom. He has a spouse picking up the slack. It seems invasive, but sometimes people contacting the doctor is for the best. My mother was experiencing memory problems, but refused to acknowledge anything was wrong. She went to the doctor after pressure from the family, got cognitive testing, and performed normally. My aunt eventually called the doctor and insisted that my mother undergo further testing, as her cognitive function only seemed to be getting worse. Turns out, my mother was in such deep denial that she'd lied, or deluded herself, about passing the memory tests. She'd actually failed spectacularly and been referred for further testing. Who knows how long it would have been for her to get her Alzheimer's diagnosis and treated had my aunt not been her interfering busybody self. Sometimes we need to see that others will go to great lengths to save us. This man was able to see that his wife valued his life more than she valued their relationship. He was worth saving, even if it sacrificed her own happiness. That's a love worth fighting to keep. I'm late to the party, but I went through something like this, and while I get it, it's frustrating to see so many comments just telling OP to divorce him. My wife pretty much saved my life, and she had to do it rather forcefully. I drank pretty heavily throughout my 20s. Many people do, but it became less fun and more of a daily chore for me. Wife would patiently talk to me about cutting back, and I wouldn't. She wanted me to quit, and I started hiding it. I was self-medicating a severe anxiety issue. I was supposedly a month sober when she found the receipt in the pocket of my jeans. She had very obviously reached her limit, and an ultimatum was made. I hate that it took me that long for her to finally get through to me. I hate that it came to an ultimatum like that, but that was the last drink that I ever had. And it's crazy to think that it's been 6 years already. That's amazing that you were able to overcome it. The people who said divorce have probably had personal experience or know someone who was an alcoholic, and their downfall destroyed their family. Unfortunately, alcoholism is a disease with very low success rate of curing, if you can call it that. And trying to force someone to quit and then putting them through withdrawal can lead to violence against the family, and the person withdrawing can seize or even die. Watching someone die of alcoholism is just as bad. It has to be one of the worst ways that you can die. I work with many severe alcohol withdrawal patients, and they are by far the hardest patients to work with in my opinion, and they were always delirious, with unlimited energy, and often were verbally or physically abusive. The safest thing you can do for you and your loved one is to put the person in a treatment center to quit drinking. Do not try to do it at home, and you can't force someone to quit drinking. I'm not saying people should divorce their partner if they're an alcoholic, but I really can't blame people who do. What they put their families through is awful. Our next post is titled, "Would I be the asshole if I requested a different teacher for my second daughter over something that happened 5 years ago?" There's a lot of backstory I can get into, but it'll make the post super long, so for the sake of size, I'm going to try and TLDR it. So the TLDR of 5 years ago, my then 9-year-old daughter started puberty earlier than others her age, and body odor was a problem, and foot smell also runs in the family. We started using foot powder for her shoes, but sometimes it didn't help, and she habitually bounced her foot when working. Being young, she loved wearing flats to school and was in the class of RT, Rude Teacher. Rude Teacher pulled my daughter aside before recess and told her that she needed to keep her shoes on because she was making the classroom stink, and then days later called out my child's name in front of the entire class, prompting my child to put her foot down. The teacher thanked her and went on teaching. When I pointed out how embarrassing that was for a 9-year-old who doesn't have control of her body smells right now, the teacher was very blasé about the situation and how she'd handled it, and it gave my daughter body issues that she is still dealing with. She's going into 9th grade right now. I've never forgiven the rude teacher or gotten over it. Now, in May, requests for the upcoming school year were sent out. I requested my second daughter, D2, not be put into the rude teacher's class. I didn't go into detail as to why, I just requested she not be put in her class. Teachers were posted today, and lo and behold, daughter 2 is in the rude teacher's class. So daughter 2 has ADHD, gets very emotional very easily, and from what I heard from a friend who subbed for the rude teacher's class last year, it was a crap show. I have my reservations on how well the rude teacher would be able to handle the second daughter, or if there would be a similar situation of embarrassment for her. Would I be the asshole if I emailed the principal and asked her to move daughter 2 to the other teacher's class before school starts? I don't want to make her work harder, but I also don't like the approach of, just wait and see what happens. My husband, however, feels that we should give rude teacher another shot because we will have 2 other kids going into her class in the future, if she's still teaching, and we can't always ask for special placement because of something that happened 5 years ago. So, would I be the asshole? I have personal prejudices and biases concerning this right here, this situation. My sister went through primary school, and one of the classes she ended up in, the teacher was an absolute witch. To say the Wicked Witch of the West was merciful in comparison is an understatement. This woman was the Wicked Witch of Hell, and every single layer beneath it. And I personally got put in her class, again and then again. And of course, she carried the biases from my sister that she didn't get along well with to me. But instead of 1 year, I got stuck with her for 3 years in a row. And there was another male teacher that I could have been moved to, but no. Principal said, oh, we're not going to do special favors because then everyone wants to go to his class because obviously she sucks. Seems like your son's going to have to put up with it. If I were you in this situation, OP, I'd say, well, before class goes in, swap someone from the other class that doesn't care about what teacher they're put with. Who cares in that situation because they'll be happy either way. We won't be happy if we have this devil teacher because she's no good. She stinks up the place. She breathes ash and soot, and that's not good for my kid. So I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one, OP. I very much am on your side. And now in the comments, not the asshole. You are never the asshole for doing what you can to protect your daughters from bullying. I would also be very honest, in a kid-friendly way, to your daughter about what is happening so that she knows you're on her side no matter what. OP replies, luckily daughter 1, the original student in the rude teacher's class, knew that I was on her side and pissed when we went to parent-teacher conferences, and after our meeting, I wanted to switch her. But she decided to tough it out because there was only a few months left at school. She's 14 now, but she still worries that she smells. She gets nervous about taking her shoes off around new people and will apologize for the smell that virtually doesn't exist anymore. See? That teacher created a trauma for her to work through. Don't let that happen to your kid with ADHD. Everyone sucks here. Your daughter should have been taught not to take off her shoes in class. That is disgusting, smelly feet or not. The teacher should have talked with you and your daughter privately about not taking the shoes off. But it sounds like she did. OP says she pulled daughter aside before recess to talk with her about keeping her shoes on to prevent the foot smell from spreading throughout the room. She's not clear at all about what happened to make the teacher call the child's name out in front of the class, only that saying her name apparently made her daughter put her foot down. Literally, I think. And OP replies, she would bounce her foot while working out of habit, so sometimes the flats would slide off her heel. Not come completely off, just the heel. So she'd been working on classwork, bouncing her foot, and the heel slipped off. I'm not sure how long ago it was because I wasn't there, but the teacher loudly said her name, which caused the entire class to look at her. Are you sure it was about the smell though? I can imagine the repetitive bouncing would have been an auditory nuisance. This really just sounds like teaching to me. I'm sure your daughter's name wasn't the only name that she called all year. Even if she felt unduly called out, this happens to all kids. I'll be honest, I think you're really overreacting. And OP says, yes, because the teacher admitted it when we had a conference with her. I probably am. That's why I'm having the debate of asking to have D2 switched out or not, because as my husband said, it was 5 years ago, and I should probably let it go and give the teacher another shot. But she's also given my daughter body issues that still affect her to this day. The teacher messed up, and so did you. You should have gotten your kid to a doctor about her odor issues. You let your kid suffer. I did ask the doctor about it actually, but good on you for assuming that I hadn't. And now, on to the update. So I posted last week, and 99% of the comments told me that I wouldn't be the asshole, that I needed to advocate for my child and protect her from a bad teacher. So I emailed the principal that night and basically said, I'm so sorry. I know teachers just got posted, but I requested D2 not to be in the rude teacher's class. Is it possible to have her switched into the other class? On Monday, the principal called me and in essence said there is a lot that goes into making class lists. Academics have to be considered. Similar numbers of boys and girls in each class, making sure if any kids couldn't be in a class together they were split, so it's just too hard. I told her my side and how I'm sure that nothing would likely happen, but for me personally, there is a non-zero chance of her causing undue harm to another of my children. She told me that she talked to the rude teacher many times, and although she's yet to see her teach, as she's new, that rude teacher is very nice, and she would talk to rude teacher without naming names to let rude teacher know that a parent was concerned about having their child in her class due to previous treatment of a sibling. On Tuesday, I talked to someone from the district that is the administrator for the schools in my area. He asked me about the situation. I told him, and I mentioned that the principal had said that it was too hard to switch students, so I was wondering if it was something that the district could do easier, and that I know that all it takes is one bad experience with a teacher to ruin a kid's school enjoyment. He said that the district didn't typically override the principal's decisions, but he wanted to talk to her because he agreed that what rude teachers said and did was inappropriate, and I shouldn't have to stress about another one of my kids being in her class. On Wednesday, the principal called me again. She was very shocked because when we talked, I thought that we'd reached an understanding, but I just got off the phone with my supervisor and, well, wouldn't you know it, there just happened to be a second grade teacher in her office, so the teacher helped the principal find a student who was equal to my daughter. They talked to the parents, and daughter 2 would no longer be in rude teacher's class. The principal said, if you were still having reservations about her being in the class, you could have come to me. I said, I wasn't trying to go above you. You just said that it was too hard, so I didn't know if it was something the district could have an easier time doing. She ended with saying, well, we hope to see you at back to school night, and if you need anything, please let me know first. Anyway, that's the update. Thanks everyone for your judgment, insights, and those of you who shared a bad experience. I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that. And now in the comments, haha, I thought we were in agreement. Now means, I thought you accepted my refusal to consider your point of view. You go, Mom. And OP replies, thank you. That's definitely how I felt when she said that. Like, no, we weren't in agreement? You just pushed my concerns under the rug. FYI, as a sufferer of smelly feet, a 5-minute bath in hydrogen peroxide will get rid of the smell pretty much instantly for a while. Edit, you can do the same for stinky shoes. Nice. The principal was definitely caught off guard by the district coming into this issue and didn't expect that at all. I'm sure you showed plenty of concern, but the principal is one of those who is used to having the last words on things with parents, and often forget there is a whole slew of people above them who can pressure them to do the right thing. And OP replies, I think she definitely was. I had even told the district I wasn't calling to get her in trouble or anything, but that I'd felt like she'd decided she couldn't or wouldn't do it and didn't want to try. I worked in a public school as an aide for a while, and one thing administrators absolutely hate is when people violate the chain of command, whether they are parents or lower staff members. I went to the district supervisor to ask for placement at a different school, and the supervisor at my school got so annoyed at me. You did the right thing by going to the district, and I'm glad it worked out for you in the end. I had a daycare director try to give me an "I thought we had an understanding" dress down when I spoke to the owner of the daycare about an issue. We did have an understanding. I understood she wasn't interested in doing anything, and I understood it wasn't acceptable. Now we have a new understanding where we got to the place where we were meant to go. And OP replies, yes. Usually I'd be like, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it now. But after talking to my mom and getting an email that said rude teacher was so excited to have daughter 2 in her class, which I'm sure is just a template that she sends out to all students' parents, I was like, I need to try the district. If they can't do anything, then it is what it is. Way to go, OP. You should never feel guilty about advocating for your child or taking advantage of comms routes that exist in order to do that. If you can't raise a little fuss every now and then, what's the point? Like, it's absolutely BS about how hard it would be to move kids around. Exactly. I get that a lot goes into the class lists, but as my mum reminded me that Monday, there's 8 days until school starts. That is plenty of time to figure out how to switch her. Alright, and that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. That last story obviously scratches me the wrong way because, what could have been? And I very much agree that experiences with a bad teacher can completely ruin your enjoyment of school. That's just how I feel. I imagine a lot of people feel the same way. And with that said, I'm going to end the episode now, so I guess you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.